Missouri's Attorney General wants to remove progressive Kim Gardner as St. Louis Circuit Attorney. You may have heard about this story. Jason Rantz is on it, and he's with me now. Will you take me through this? Why is he trying to get rid of this particular circuit, what is it, the circuit attorney?
Yeah, I mean, she's basically a prosecutor or DA for the city. And the reason why he's doing this is essentially she has refused to do her job. There was a recent case in which just showed the tragedy of not actually doing your job and prosecuting and keeping track of someone who she went light on, a 21-year-old kid who repeatedly violated his bond conditions, ends up going out, getting into an accident that causes a poor volleyball player, a young girl, to lose her legs. This is someone who should have been in jail. This is someone who, at the bare minimum, the city was actually paying attention to, trying to get him back in jail for violating the bonds. Didn't happen. But at the end of the day, it's not just about this one case.
Right.
It's about a lot of cases.
What was Gardner supported by George Soros?
I believe she was supported ideologically, yes, 100%.
He spent $40 million installing 75 progressive prosecutors.
Which is a brilliant strategy when you want to change the process. You get one person who has he has a lot of power, or she has a lot of power, but no oversight. And so you can make these decisions to not prosecute. You can make the decisions to completely ignore the law. And really, there's not much that can be done except at the legislative level, which Missouri, by the way, is trying to address.
Good Lord. I'm very interested in this story. Democrats in Washington state are forcing businesses to hire potheads. That's the headline that I'm looking at.
Yes.
Businesses being forced to hire potheads in Washington state. How can you force to hire potheads?
By changing the process so that you cannot find out whether or not these people are in fact potheads. So under a law that's being proposed, and it looks like it's actually going to go through, you would not be able to drug test for marijuana. You would not be able to discriminate for anyone who chooses to smoke on their off time. Now, generally, I think that should be left up to the actual business. If you do not want someone who is a pothead to work for you for some very obvious reasons, you shouldn't be forced into that position. And I think there's a conflict within the actual law because it does still provide for some exceptions. So, for example, if you're in the aerospace industry, you can actually test for drug use. Well, why? Why can you test in that industry, but if you're a nurse's assistant, if you're an accountant, you can't actually test for that? It doesn't make sense to me because you're acknowledging that there is a risk, albeit tiny, but there is a risk.
See what you think about this. These days, you can smoke marijuana, flower, I believe it's called, and there's a big smell. Or you can vape the stuff. It looks like a pen, suck into it, and there's no smell. You get high, no smell.
Don't forget the edibles.
And the edibles. I mean, you don't know in your workforce, you don't know who's got pot inside them and who doesn't.
You really don't. And unfortunately, again, depending on the industry that you're in, it may not make a whole lot of sense to constantly do drug tests. So it's not like I recommend that. But generally, they wait until there's an actual accident and then they do the drug test. But if you're someone who's concerned about whether or not your staff are getting high and possibly high at work, you should be able to really enforce that kind of policy. You still have drug-free workforces.
Drug testing. It's a statement by the company.
Yeah.
You don't get high on marijuana and come to work.
Yeah,
and
we
if you
don't want someone like that to work for us because it is a reflection of our business that we have someone like you who's representing us. If you want to smoke and if you're a business owner who's fine with it, okay. At the end of the day, it shouldn't be the government coming in and saying you cannot test for this during your pre-employment screening.
You're our Seattle guy. Welcome to New York.
Thank you so much.
Walk out on the streets right out here. You'll smell it all over the place.
Yeah, I got a contact high coming into the studio today.
All right. Thank you, Jason.